Yo, what up, dude?
What's up, Vibe? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
Right on, man. Good, good, good. Thank you.
You guys ready for some a nice yelling session at you? I'm gonna
Yeah,
really
yeah, that's what
rip you a
that's
new
what we're
one.
ready.
No, I'm just
So we're
joking.
used to.
I'm just joking. Um, all right. So I guess what's your guys' thoughts today? What do you want to do? Do you want to do a like a replay review, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I have a couple replays that I saved for you. If you want to just
Okay.
dive into one of those, I guess.
So I have a super easy way where you guys can like actually follow along with what I'm doing then. And the easiest way to do it would be if you just grab the replay and then drop it in the chat of Discord. It's like super instant
Oh,
how it'll
okay.
send. And then I'll share my screen with you on Discord so you can actually watch my camera instead of like being like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm looking at my natural. What the fuck do you mean right now?
Right. All right. Let's see. So are we on Twitch right now?
Yeah, this is all
Okay.
live. And then I'll send you guys a VOD of this too when this is over.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, she says hi. I'll send
She
you
do it over
guys. No, she's on the internet, dude. I promise. No, I'll send you guys a VOD when this is over too, so you guys can have like,
Okay.
or you know, you can watch it whenever you want in the future.
Oh, sweet.
So if there's anything I do say and you're like, wait, what the fuck? That didn't make sense, or you obviously ask me a question, but if there's something you forget, you'll have the VOD that you can always go back and look at.
All right. Here's a match. I played a little bit sloppy in this one, but that's not why I lost. I was just had the wrong comp, I think, against these guys or this guy.
Sure. All right, I got my screen up on Discord. You guys should be able to see it now.
Watch stream. All right.
And then, you are which one are
no
you?
cheese.
Okay. No worries. I like your name. I'm a big fan of no cheese. The full macro, the respectable way to play. All
But
right.
you still, or I still die to the cheese
Yeah.
once in a while.
It's okay. It happens. All right. So we'll and what league is this? Just to get it out there.
D2.
Okay. All right. So yeah. Well,
Is it really that slow? Good God.
what do you mean? The probe?
I don't know. It just seems slow watching it through here. I guess.
Oh, okay. I'm like on the. This is what it looks like when it's slow.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, this is what I'm normally used to right here. You're like high as fuck every time you play. And you're like, yeah, that's what I normally see. All right, so, yeah, I like your scout. Your scout's good. This is huge. This is also pretty big too. Like, we'll see what you do with the probe in a second. But yeah, so far your scout's been great.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah.
It's kind of all over the place. It seems like I play different every match. So.
Sure. As long as you have like the foundational like never stop building shit out of your base, mostly whatever you're doing will be fine. The only thing right there I would say that you would want to change a little bit is check the gas, because you couldn't see gas coming in yet, which is fine. It's
Yeah.
normal. It's like because the only way that you would have is if you saw him making a barracks before a gas before he made a barracks. But if you would have checked the gas, you'd know that based on build time, like when you got to his base, because you got here like right when the barracks was like maybe like a third of the way done, or like maybe even almost a fourth.
Right.
So like right here, if you went in and checked the gas as well, and you saw the gas also being like about, by the time the probe would make it from here to here, gas would probably be like about halfway done. That's a huge, it's huge only because it tells you that this guy took a gas when he took a Rax, and that he's doing, it's like standard now, and you don't have to worry about some bullshit. Like for an opener, that is. It's not like crazy fucking greedy with gasless, or it's not super fast gas where he's gonna go for an extremely fast factory. Stuff like that. It's actually important to know that shit, because it can change where you should put your units.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think, and Paul would agree with this one, is both of us our weak point in this game is proper scouting.
Yeah, for sure. Scouting the gas is huge for sure.
Yeah.
All right, and then this rally point's a little fucked. There we go. I was for something I was like, is every probe just going to that box and then being like, all right, let's go to the middle line? You're good though.
Who knows?
Okay, this is actually huge right here, okay? Never ever do core before Nexus unless you're gonna all in your opponent. Ever.
Okay. All right.
There is, like, a lot of people think that you have to go core first if you're getting cheesed. And even if you're getting cheesed, you can still go Nexus first. And the
Right.
reason why...
No, and you know, the funny thing is I normally do. And,
That's good. It's good.
Like I said, I was sloppy this game.
No, it's super... I'm glad that you normally do. Because the biggest thing that actually helps against all-ins is having a fast shield battery that can be overcharged at your natural. And the core has such a good, like, a fast build time. The Stalker has a fast build time, especially if you chrono boost it, or the Adept, or whatever you want to make. But the Nexus has, like, double the build time of these buildings. So
Right.
you'd never have a battery, and then if you make a shield battery at your Nexus, and you're like, I want to defend my natural. You'll never be able to actually, like, make a stand there if you don't have battery overcharge, because it'll run out of energy so fast if you're rocking one gateway, and you don't have enough, like,
Right.
damage to get them the fuck out of there. So yeah, definitely, I'm glad that you do it, but yeah, definitely always make sure you Nexus before.
Now I'm questioning myself as well, because normally if I'm playing against Terran, I usually build the gateway behind my mineral line. So I don't know what I was doing here exactly.
Oh, it's fine. You can do it. Definitely put it there too, and like block the Reaper if he comes in your base. You could put it on the ramp if you wanted to block the Reaper from getting in your base. But it's okay. Like the positioning of this, especially in Diamond, is what it's whatever. It's not the hugest deal. As long as you have like the proper build, like maybe not placement, but just build in general. So like for instance, this right here, this is super annoying. This guy's actually gonna block your natural now, and even if you would have wanted to go Nexus first, you would not have been able to have afforded it before the engineering bay went down. So what I would recommend you do in a situation like this is just take your third, literally.
Oh, okay.
Just be like, all right, cool. You want to block my natural? I'll just take a third base, and then you put like a pylon. Like you could put a pylon like in front of your third or something, or like at your third somehow to like give you warp-ins here, and you could even put, if you really wanted, like something you could do that's really clever, is you could put your Nexus here, and this is like map specific, okay? You can't do this on every map because not every map has a wall like this. But if you put your Nexus here, you put a pylon right above it, and then you put like a gateway right above that, you could actually wall off the top side of your probes getting harassed, and you'd always have to come down around to hit you. And if you have the unit standing there and units standing like over here, you have like no real, or especially since you walled the ramp, you could actually have a unit standing like right here and units here to where no matter where he goes, you're gonna catch his harassment.
Right.
Yeah. And if he does this too,
that's huge.
if he does this as well, you should always have a battery at your natural. Okay, the ideal thing is to have it at your natural, but if he does this and you take this as now your new natural, you would want to put a battery just like right there. That way if he harasses your probes can be healed by the battery, and it makes it way harder for shit to die. And yeah, and then that'll be super good. One other cool thing you could do too is put like just like one pylon right there. That way you can have like a spotter that goes, oh look, he's trying to run up the ramp and go down towards my main. So your third units could come down and back up your unit at your ramp and your door. Stuff like that. Like, but yeah, just basically the point I'm trying to make here is don't be afraid to take your third base as your new natural if this guy does this shit to you. The last thing you want to do is just stay on one base until you get this cleared out.
Yeah, that's what I did. So.
Yeah, because yeah, no, for sure, right? Because the difference is going to be like you could expand at like 135, realistically, or like 130 with going gateway into Nexus. But now I bet you're not going to expand until probably a full minute later. You're probably not going to expand until like 230. So you're all your probes are gonna, we'll see, right? But I bet it's probably gonna be a full minute later, and it's gonna just make all your economy suck.
Annoying. I hate Terran, man. Terran's scum.
Yeah, right. Terran's like, I fucking hate probes. Kill the probes.
This is like my hardest match every time. I don't have any trouble with Zerg and Protoss most of the time. Like if I lose one of those matches, I know exactly why. But with Terran, you know, that's my absolute worst matchup, and it seems like I have to play Terran constantly because of that. I don't know if that's how the matchmaking thing works, but I'm always playing.
Yeah, no, you're just unlucky as fuck, and it's random, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
You're like, why does it always have to be this way?
I know, man. It's just like wipe the floor with D2 Zerg, like nothing. But,
yeah, right. All right.
Yeah, here we go, chipping away at that thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then
got a huge bank.
Yeah, exactly right. So every single time you build, this is what I thought that might happen too, since your money's going to stack really high, is you're starting to add all this extra production on, and all that this really does to you is every single. So the way you should look at StarCraft 2, the way that everybody should look at StarCraft 2, is that there is like a line, or like just imagine like a train or some shit. I don't know, like a train with a train track, and your economy is like the train moving at like its normal optimal speed to like go from point A to point B, and every time you do something that is out of the efficiency of economy, it's like someone hit like a switch on the track, and now you go on this fucking detour that's really long, and then you come back eventually, but you're getting to your destination now later and later and later, and the destination you want to be at is your optimal economy. So what this does to you now is this is going to massively slow down your economy, and for you to make this now efficient, because efficiency is still what you want it to be, right? Like that's like the key word of like what you want your StarCraft play to be. This now needs to be a timing attack for it to be effective. So
single base all in push right now, or what?
It doesn't have to be all in, but you need to attack him. Like you would need to do something to make use of your gates, because you cannot open 3 gates on one base and then just sit there passively. Because if you do that, you're like your opponent's gonna get to his economic optimal area like 7 minutes, and you're gonna get there at 9.5 or like 8.5, and you're gonna be like, well, why am I always losing fights in the mid game and the late game? It's because your supply is like 40 lower than it should be every time you guys are fighting, like around 8 minutes or 9 minutes, because you have so less economy now. But you could actually, if he's going to be economical and you're going to do this, you could actually even the playing field now by doing counter damage. You don't have to all in it, but if you do some type of damage and then you back off, that would be a great way that you could, you know, reset the economic standpoint where, although you delayed your own to be aggressive, you weakened his and you brought it back to be like an equal playing field with you, and now the game progresses as normal. It's just now you both are late, essentially.
Makes sense, man. I honestly don't remember what I did in this match.
Sure, it's all good.
I do remember this turns into an issue of composition, I think.
It's also going to be an issue of not having enough of composition too, right? Because of if you're going to passively play this, you're just going to be so far behind. Because like right now, we'll see when your Nexus finishes, okay? I'll give you a timer here. Because your Nexus went down like at like 3 minutes, when it should be going down a full like 90 seconds before that. So at 4 minutes and 7 seconds, your Nexus just finished, and you currently have 8 probes that are not already on it. You have 3 on it, and you have the other 5 that are kind of doing this long distance bullshit. So your economy is definitely hindered right now. But after 4 minutes, this base should honestly already be fully saturated on the mineral line, and you could have like a 3rd base already starting like very soon, within the next like 10-15 seconds. So you are like, and then if you think about that, if each base represents about like 900-ish minerals a minute per mining up here, you're at 1,035, and you should be at like at 1,800 already. You should already have have like 38 probes, or like 39, maybe even like 40 probes here, because you'd have like 6 on the gas, 16 on the mineral line, 16 on the mineral line already. So you're down, and then if you think about it too, like you're missing 90 seconds of chrono boost generation on the Nexus, which is like, that could have generated probably like the initial chrono and like 2 more chronos for you since then. Like, so you've missed out on like 3 chronos that you could have been using already for just extra probe production. So there's so much shit that's like slowing you down. And then your chrono, also you're chronoing this. This once again says that if you ever chrono boost aggressively, you need to be doing a timing attack. Like, there already would need to be like a pylon here and a gateway for this to make sense.
Gotcha. Because
this is not something you need to worry about defensively ever. This is something that you only need to worry about aggressively. And that was a nice scout. You see that? Okay, I want you to look at this, okay? Well, we'll go back and give it like, instead of giving like a split second to scout it, I want to watch your Phoenix, and I want you to tell me what you think that this means. What would you read from this if this was a game you were playing right here? Just let it go out. Let it see what it's going to see. It was good. This was a really good scout in terms of what you gave yourself for vision. That was a great scout. But between everything you just saw, I'm going to pause it there. What would you think is gonna happen now?
Well, I saw the Marines. I had a concern of Widow Mine drops for no really founded reason other than that seems like that's the meta, right?
Sure. I mean, that's a
So,
possibility with what you see here.
factory and possible metavacs there. So, but mostly I was concerned about the Marines. It looked like he was very Marine heavy.
Okay. And yeah, I mean that's good. I mean, the fact that you referenced Widow Mine drops is actually good, and the fact that you obviously are afraid of the Marines is good because he obviously had a bunker that was loaded. He had another group of Marines here. He has a group of Marines here, so you know he's making a lot of Marines. You can see he's making a lot of Marines because he has double racks, which means he's going for bio, and he's got the tech lab here, which is upgrading, which means he's most likely getting stim pack. So what seems like it's going to be the case is this guy is probably going to do a push in your face at some point, because there's another huge detail to note here is there's no third command center, and instead there's extra production. So this is something that you need to know about Terran, okay? For a Terran to play standard economical like 3 base bullshit, where it's going to be like light harassment, it's going to be 1-1-1 third base. That's normal standard Terran harassment. If they ever double up or triple up on a production building that is barracks or a factory, it just insinuates that it's going to be a timing attack, and the more that they make, the more aggressive it's going to be. So if this is going to be a 2-1-1, the 2 barracks into 1 factory, 1 starport, this is most likely going to be some type of a pressure in your face with, it could be either drop your side of your base, it could push the front of your base, but it would make sense if this guy pokes you now with a group of stimpacked Marines, which is also what you saw, because there is no third. It's the exact same logic for you here for the
Right, I was expecting pressure. That I figured he was coming.
Yeah, no, it's a good read, and this factory not having a tech lab on it could also insinuate that if he wanted to, he could totally make Widow Mines and not be making like tanks or something. So that is and it could have been a possibility. It seems less likely though, just because this guy's going for 2-1-1 with reactored Marines and shit. So it's not ruled out entirely, but it's just less likely now.
Right. Okay.
So, for you, having a battery is super relevant, super good defensively. That's really, really, really good. Having an observer is nice too, just in case it does actually have Widow Mines at some point. But the big thing for you that I would be really wanting to make sure you stress here for yourself is that you never stop building units ever in your buildings. And like your robo, the observer is out. Your robo is now idle. Hopefully it doesn't go for too long. You don't have enough gas though, unfortunately. And then your one of your this is what happens, right? Like you made too much production, now you can't afford to actually use your existing production.
So should I be making zealots here if I don't have enough gas?
You just made too much production is all it is. Like for this to have made sense aggressively, the warp gate shit, you wouldn't have wanted to have made a robo, and you would have wanted to have like a proxy gateway here, so you wouldn't have the added cost of 100 gas for the robo and 75 gas for the observer, and then whatever else you want to make out of the robo. Like this would all be freed up to be gateway units, which you could then go over here with and do this shit. And then you chrono boosted your core, which is going to slow down your probe count, which is going to slow down your gases because you're inevitably going to get to your saturation slower now. So you delayed the nexus, which slowed down your probes, and you chronoed this, which is going to delay your probes. So your probes are super delayed. So it feels like you're starving because you don't have your resources properly being saturated as fast as they should be. And then you're just overdoing production. Because if you would have just made like 1 gate, and then once you make like your sentry, you could add on just 1 more gate and your robo after that, you would have had a later gateway than you did. Because you made your gateway super fucking fast over here. You made these before you even expanded. And they should have definitely been made a bit after, and then you basically the idea is you'd want to pair like your 2nd gate with the robo, and then if you wanted a 3rd gate, you could pair the 3rd gate with like the robo bay or some shit, and you could just be making stalkers into Colossus, and it would feel super clean in your economy, where it wouldn't feel like you're like, I can't afford shit. So 1st gateway by itself, 2nd gateway with robo, 3rd gateway with robo bay would be totally fine.
What do you think about the difference between heading for Colossus or going for High Templar?
I think Colossus is more reliable. I think High Templar is more crossing your fingers hoping that something goes right for you, because
that you don't get EMP'd.
Well, I mean, He could EMP. That is definitely a thing. If he scouts you really well and he just rushes ghosts absurdly fast, he could definitely EMP you. But if he just scans before he takes... So most Terrans, logically, will scan you before they fight you. They're not just going to run in blind. Because they want to see what they're up against. And if a Terran scans you and goes, oh, this guy has High Templars, and not much... like, so if you rush any AoE, just to throw it out there, if you rush Colossus or if you rush High Templar, your actual army is going to be kind of small. Because you're doing such a big tech investment that's not free. It's pretty expensive. And then you're making the tech unit as well. So it's going to take a hit on your actual army. So you're going to have a lot less units than you otherwise would have had. And if your opponent goes, oh, Templars, and he goes like this, he goes, all right, my army's like this in a blob. I'm just going to pull some of it off and put over there, pull some of it off and put it over here, pull some of it off and put it right there. And I'm going to run in like a spread out formation with a pre-spread. And now you're like, oh, fuck, I'm trying to fight, you know, like 16 Marines and like 5 Marauders and 3 Medevacs with 6 Stalkers and 3 High Templar. And you're not getting good storms because he's already spread out. You're probably gonna die. Like, it's low chances you're gonna survive there. But if you go Colossus, you don't have to worry about that. You just literally like always a move back up near a battery, and then you'll get decent trades every time. So I would say Colossus is more user friendly. But Storm is great. I would say it's probably the best sequence to go Colossus first, then add Storm in later, and you have both.
Yeah, that's what I normally do. I go for the Templar a little late in the game. I don't know if I did it in this game though.
Sure, it's definitely. I would say it's the better way to do it. And this here too, Prism. This is your build is definitely like 50-50, half aggression, half defensive. Because Prism right now defensively is gonna do nothing for you. That was a nice scout, super nice scout with your observer. And then here too, honestly, don't even make any more batteries.
Just one?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the reason why is because battery overcharge is all you need. The
Gotcha.
bigger thing you want to make sure you do is make sure, instead of making more batteries and having the idea to maybe like run away behind your Nexus and let your batteries tank the damage, put your army in front of your batteries to make it hard for him to kill the battery and overcharge it.
Okay.
So the way you positioned yourself there was good. I love that you moved up first and then took the fight. That was fucking really nice. Because now it makes it really hard for him to dive the battery. So that was super good. But just make sure the second he stim packs and starts engaging you, you immediately battery overcharge. Because if you don't do it, you will lose Stalkers here. Because of battery overcharge?
I probably do.
Okay, it was good. That's good.
No, I probably lose Stalkers.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
Oh, there's the overcharge.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like.
So you lost 2 Stalkers before you did it. But just keep in mind, too, the reason why it's so fucking good is not only because it makes it free for 14 seconds, but it doubles the rate of what it heals. So it actually makes the burst damage way less intimidating because you're healing instead of 36 shields per second, which is what it normally is. It heals for 72 a second instead. And 72 shields a second is I would say it's enough to counter like realistically probably like 15 stim marines, and the reason why is because 72 shields a second isn't going to counter 15 entirely by itself, but it's going to keep your Stalkers up enough to where you're going to take some damage, regenerate it, take some damage, regenerate it. You're going to take some actual damage each time this happens, but it's not going to fully kill you, but you're going to be killing his marines at the same time, and you'll be able to like whittle him down and really lose almost nothing versus like 15 marine. That's probably like the tipping point there. Anything above that, you probably will lose like a Stalker or maybe 2 Stalkers, depending on how much more it is, or it really just depends on the numbers here. But it's just like a battery overcharge battery is going to be able to take on like 15 Marines and lose like nothing. Whereas if it's not overcharged, you could probably only take on like 8. Literally. Like it's to lose nothing.
Gotcha.
So it's huge how much of a difference it makes for you in the fight. And then this fight's going to be over, guaranteed, before this overcharge is done. And the fight's already over, right? And now you have 2 batteries that are there, and that's another investment that is just slowing you down. And that's half a Nexus right there, so it's fucking expensive when you really need so basically, these are numbers you should actually remember, okay? 1 minute and 30 seconds. If your Nexus is not down at your natural by then, you're playing slow. And like around 4 minutes and 15 seconds, your third base should go down. And if it's like 4:15 to like 4:30, I'll give you that. Because that's like really fast. Like 4:15 is more on the fast side.
I'm actually writing this down.
Yeah. So 1:30 natural, 4:15 to 4:30 third base. that if you aren't expanding by those times, your build needs to be all in or needs to be really aggressive. Because if you don't do an attack and you also don't expand at those times, your build is going to feel really bad.
All right. You said 4:30 for the third?
Yeah, like, that's like the maximum. I would say 4:15 would be like on the early side. That means you're playing fucking crisp, and 4:30 would be like still respectable, still good, but you're playing on like that's like the longest like acceptable time. Anything above that is like you're starting to get really a little too late here.
Gotcha.
And right now we're talking 6 minutes, and you haven't started the third yet. So
Yeah, this is what the slop I was talking about. See, I've got a couple probes just chilling.
yeah, no, for sure. He's just like fuck it.
One with the stalkers, one with the.
He's breathing heavy. He's like, I almost fucking died. It's a near-death experience.
Yeah.
Alright, and then I would also say the first thing you should chrono boost that is not a probe in this entire game. Like, so I'll say this. I don't mind if you chrono boost your very first Stalker. That's totally fine. That way, the reason why is because if the guy goes Reaper, it helps deal with the Reaper. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
But other than that first Stalker, don't ever chrono boost anything here again until your first Colossus. And then chrono boosting your first Colossus is totally fine.
So just probes up until then?
Yep. Just probes.
Okay.
And that's going to make, you're going to notice, it's going to make it way easier to be like, oh shit, yeah, 415 expand. Like if you're chrono boosting your fucking core and stuff, you're going to be like, 415 feels really hard to hit. I'm going to probably hit like 430.
Yeah, that is something that that I don't pay attention to is the clock. I usually just play.
No, for sure. So you don't have to pay attention to it too much. I would just say using it as a reference for expansion timers would be great. And here's another one. Right, I would recommend you write this one down too. If the game is not all in and you either like take a good defense early and he doesn't really do damage to you, basically if you have a situation like this where it feels like your economy didn't take any damage, your fourth base should be going down about by 6 minutes to 6:15. So yeah, you'd already want to have a fourth base like starting by now.
All right. These notes will just be taped to my monitor.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's huge. And if you actually do that, after your fourth base, you'd want to probably expand again every like 2 to 3 minutes, realistically. Like, so you'd want to take your fifth base by like 8 minutes to 9 minutes, and your next base after that by like 10 to 11 minutes. And the only reason why I say that is because you're going to notice if you fully saturate 4 bases if you have your fourth base started by 6 minutes and you're making probes constantly until you have like 80 probes, your bases are going to start mining out really fast too, because you're efficiently saturating them fast. So if you don't continue to take expansions after that every like 2 to 3 minutes, you're going to be like, oh shit, I'm like 8 out of 16 here and I don't have another base to send probes to, and everything else is fully saturated. So you definitely want to make sure you have like another base set up to where when this base has half the batches mined out, you can send them here. Same thing with this base, you can send them somewhere.
So here's a question. One thing I struggle with a lot of the time is knowing when the appropriate time would be to start getting upgrades. Now, should I start that early on or just kind of...
You should... So the easiest answer to give you here is you don't want to do too much that you can't afford too fast. It's the exact same thing you did here with triple gateway before you expanded. And then your gateways aren't being utilized half the time. And your robo wasn't being utilized half the time. If you do a build that rushes Colossi like this, which is great, by the way. I like the fact that you go for Colossus like relatively earlier. I like it. You should definitely do that. You could have done it even faster, honestly, than you did this game, but it's because your economy was a bit fucked up. But basically what you want to do is you don't want to take upgrades until after your third base has good saturation on it. So if I'm telling you to take your third base by like 4 minutes and 15 seconds to like 4:30, you don't want to take your upgrades until probably like 5:15, 5:30, somewhere around there. And a number to work with here would be your third base would have probably, like the ideal number to have on a whole base is 22, 6 on the gas, 16 on the mineral line. You'd want to have probably like 15 probes on this base before you take your upgrades.
Gotcha.
So your mineral line would be like basically fully saturated, and then you're like, all right, I can now afford my my forge and my council, and you'd pair that together. You'd pair forge council together to be able to get blink and also weapons. And you could also do double forge and council. That's also fine too.
That's what I was about to ask. When is it appropriate to do double forge? Just like if you know you've got a little bit of a lead or something?
So it's composition. Depends what your composition wants to be. If you're the kind of player that goes, all right, I'm going to go Stalker heavy with Colossus, and I'm going to make Stalker, Disruptor, Colossus, something like that, don't get double upgrade early. Just go single forge, and you could even do like double robo. But if you're going to be the kind of player that's like, well, I'm going to just make Stalkers initially, and I'm going to switch into like Storm, Colossus, Zealot, something like that, double forge.
Okay.
Because Zealot pairs really well with double forge because it's Zealots are going to benefit massively from the armor upgrade. That's one great reason why it pairs so well together. But it's also because you're basing that strat so much more off of your covering your AoE units, like your Templars and your Colossi, essentially. So having armor there with your Zealot just makes your Zealot last longer to just buy more time for your AoE units to get the job done. But if you wanted to do a style that was more specialistic, where you don't plan on losing units at all because you're going to blink micro your Stalkers and you're going to make like Colossus and Disruptor, you could literally skip armor and just have more Colossi, Disruptor, and more Stalker, which all cost gas. There's no mineral dump there. So it would be really hard to be like also squeezing in an armor upgrade on another forge too, because it's going to really just make it hard to afford everything, essentially. You don't have to play that way, by the way. You don't have to do the single forge shit. If you want to make it really easy for yourself, I would definitely say double forge Zealot is way easier. So it's much easier of a style because you could just A-move it and then just like go for your AoE and land that shit on the Terran's army. And it also gives you run buys, and run buys are so fucking important against Terran.
Yeah, I need to get better at that. Just send it. Oh yeah, here's when it starts getting annoying.
Yeah, for sure, right? I'll definitely give you an idea on when you should be doing run buys in this game when I see that you could definitely have an opportunity to do it. So right there too, that was a micro opportunity that you had that you kind of botched, I would say. So let's back it up for really quick, just for 1 second.
If I had blink.
No, it's not even blink. You could have killed that without blink. Honestly, it's the only reason why I want to reference it.
Okay.
All right, so he's in your base, right? Really good pull on your probes. That was really nice. You still have, it was mostly nice. You still have 16, so you lost 6 probes just now because you had 22.
Yeah, not so good.
Yeah, it's not. At least you pulled them though. And it was like you still have a good chunk of them that didn't die. If you were like just running your army here and like half your probes died, you only have like 6 left or some shit. I'd be like, all right, that's a little fucky for you.
Sentry out of there to try to preserve it. But.
Yeah. So now, what you should be doing here is there's 2 things that should be happening. One of them is if you ever, this is something huge to remember, okay? If you ever just right-click your probes away from this shit attacking you, do not ever click the ramp, ever. The only time you should ever have your probes going towards the ramp is if you clicked the gas or the mineral line, because it now gives them path walking where units can walk through them and they're like basically ghosts or some shit.
Totally, yeah.
If you don't click the resource at your natural though, always click somewhere that's just away in your base, like over here would be perfect. That way you don't cause a traffic jam, because the traffic jam is the first thing that's
sense.
Yeah, it's fucking you so much harder than it should, because it's making your units like stagger now, which is not what you want. The second thing is as soon as your units get in range to fight this, you have to be like very assertive about like flipping the switch here about how you micro this. So right now, moving it is the best, because you want maximum concave distance. You don't want to just run into bio and have your units die one at a time, especially since your units are now staggered like the way they are. So moving and getting max distance attacks is ideal here. But I'll show you when the switch would want to be flipped, which is right now. So now it changes. And the reason why it changes is because he's not standing his ground and fighting you anymore. He is now trying to evacuate. And what you want to do in this situation is you'd want to try to memorize your unit's attack speed. And for Protoss, really big ones for the style you're going to be using, there's 2 really big units you want to memorize. Number 1 is a Colossus attack speed. And number 2 is a Stalker's attack speed, because these are going to be two like main staples of your army that you're going to use all the time against Terran. And a Stalker really is really important to memorize. And you want to you want to memorize it because you want to get a feel for it when you're playing the game. And this is how you would want to have microed this. When this guy loads up his medevacs, he's trying to evacuate. He has no pressure now if you run into him. There's no way, like, even if he starts dropping again one by one by one by one, you could still do this because his damage is going to be way lower now because he just loaded up a medevac. So what you want to do is you want to basically move your unit for the entire attack speed of the unit, and then attack as close as you can to when that timer is up. Because if you're standing still or if it's moving, it has the same attack speed. It cools down the same way either way. So if you actually attacked and then moved your Stalker this way for 1.34 seconds and attacked again like right there, and then moved for 1.34 seconds and attacked again right there, and then moved again and attacked right there, I guarantee you could have killed these medevacs. Because if you notice, it's 6:36 right now. So every like 1.5 seconds, we'll just say 2 seconds, okay? Even though that's really off here because it's 1.3 out of 2. But we'll say every 2 seconds that goes by, we'll pause it and see how many attacks you could have gotten off. And it only takes, for a Stalker to do 18 damage, it only takes, like, if you think about that, it's less than 10 hits, right? It's like 8 hits to kill a medevac, roughly. Right. So if we paused again at 6:38, you could have attacked and you could have been closer. This one, you were actually moving it a little bit, so I'll give it to you there. Your Stalker still moved in because the Marines are moving back, so they did still move forward. So we'll start it from 6:38. So 6:38 starts. Now it's 6:40. He gets away, and your Stalkers. The big thing that I would say is like huge here for you is if you think about what does he want, what is his plan right now? What's he gonna do? He's most likely gonna load up and then go away, right? He like wants to get the fuck out of your base because you're pushing him out. He's probably not gonna boost into your Stalkers. He's probably not gonna boost into your other area because your whole army is north of him, so he's probably not gonna go north into you. He's probably gonna go to the east out of your base. So if you recognize that and you move your units to the direction that you think he's gonna go, I feel like you could have killed a medevac here.
Probably. I could have shot him a lot sooner.
Yeah,
right there.
Because if you were moving, if you didn't just A move for so long there, and you would have moved just A move for a second and then move command, your units wouldn't have just stood there for a while attacking the Marines, because they shot the Marines and they kind of like grouped up trying to shoot the Marines. But if you moved down, shot the medevac, moved down again, shot the medevac, I guarantee you could have killed at least one of these medevacs. And if you
Sentry's got his game on right there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and if you kill one of the medevacs, that's just like huge for deleting the follow-up annoyance of what this could be.
All right. Yeah, and if I remember correctly, he just chills right there and comes right back.
No, exactly. And yeah, that's what I mean. Like if you actually killed one of those medevacs, it would be so much less annoying. All right. So another thing to keep in mind too, like I was saying before, is a Colossus' attack speed. It's 1.07. So a Colossus is even faster than a Stalker. And the reason why this is relevant is because you want to know what a Colossus attack speed it would be. That way you can kite properly. Like you don't.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, you would never want to be like moving for like 5 seconds at a time and then attacking, and then 4 seconds attacking, 3 seconds attacking. It'd want to be like 1 second attack, 1 second attack, 1 second attack. That way you're just like getting maximum deletions on the guy's army.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of Colossus kiting coming right up.
That's good. We'll see how it goes. A really cool thing you can do too would be if you want to move your whole army out like this, I'm okay with it. However, absolutely, wherever you put you putting your army more centralized to the middle of your base is correct right now, but you should absolutely be warping in Stalkers right there, like right here.
Okay.
Because if you, like we said before, since the drops aren't dead, it's very likely that he's going to see where you are somewhere else and just go right back in your base. So if you have some, let's say 2 rounds of Stalkers were warp in here, you could just pop one of the medevacs before it even drops in your base, and you can start popping the other medevac as it starts to drop in your base, and maybe it gets a full unload while you kill both medevacs, but then it's just Stalkers versus no medevac supported bio, and you could still win that fight. You might lose a few Stalkers, but you kill all of it without losing your probes, which is the important part.
Right. And it's always good to warp in Stalker for that kind of thing instead of Zealots or something else, right?
Yeah, right. Well, for base defense, for killing medevacs, absolutely, yeah. You'd want to warp in Zealots only for 2 things. If he's already unloaded in your base, that's totally now maybe not the greatest stalker time, because if let's say you already have a bunch of stalkers and he's already unloaded in your base and you have charge as well as blink or whatever, you could absolutely warp in some stalker or some zealots to support your stalkers, so that when you take the fight, you charge zealots in first, and then you have stalkers behind it killing the bio, and then if he loads in the medevacs, you blink and kill the medevacs and shit like that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but if it was like just one unit or the other, if you warped in zealots only, he could just fly over that and be like, wait, what? This guy warped in zealots. How about I don't drop here? How about I drop over here now? Or I drop there. And it makes you have to chase it and follow it. So it creates like an annoyance for you.
Get mining again.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like, Terran are just... That's the one thing for me, just the drops constantly. I'm always getting...
For sure.
Getting dropped on, and the losses just... rack up from that. You know?
One thing you could be doing right now too. So the fact that you made this prism that you have, where is your prism? Did it die?
I think it might be heading up to his base.
Okay,
is that one of the? Yeah, there it is.
So
it's coming back. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, it's okay. Like, I would say the prism is definitely not the unit you'd want to make, and I feel like you only made it because you were like, well, I don't know what I want to do with my robot right now. I have an observer and I can't make Colossus yet. Like, maybe that's why you made it. But
yeah, I was thinking about going up to his base and harassing him, but I just never had the opportunity.
Sure. Okay.
Or
So
at least with my APM, I never had the opportunity.
just make sure that those ideas, like if I want to attack him kind of ideas, you only make that idea if you're going to invest into that idea. And I will say, the way you made your gateways this game, that could have been totally fine if you actually did that, because you could have had more stalkers than otherwise this game. The shit we were talking about earlier, where if you go heavier army, you need to kind of stabilize the game with your opponent by doing damage to him now. So this could have made sense, but yeah, I mean, you haven't used it yet, and I would say this just creates more of a multitask like dilemma for you, where you have to like handle more shit now. And if you want to make your life easier, absolutely just make 3 observers at once before you start your first Colossus, because you have enough time to do that before your Robo Bay is done. And if you do that, you could have 1 following your army, 1 on like oversight mode on the side of your main, and 1 on oversight mode on the side of your third.
Yeah, that would be huge.
That way you could be like, all right, how about I leave some stalkers here? How about I leave some stalkers? Like, when I say some stalkers, I mean like, you never want to do this, by the way. This is not what you want to be doing. With cannons like this.
What is that? Oh, cannons.
Yeah, this is just expensive as fuck, and you
like wasting money.
Exactly, because you're already defensive anyway, so you're like double dipping defense right now, and you're just making your army smaller because you're investing in a static D now. So what you could do is you could have like I said, you could have observers. That spot, if he's going to drop you earlier, gives you a warning before he does it. You could have like 6 or 8 stalkers here, 6 or 8 stalkers like over here, with observers spotting for them, and then you could have like a pylon. That's a perfect pylon. That's a great pylon. Another pylon like right there, another pylon like maybe like right here, and another pylon like right there.
Yeah, I usually do that. I usually set up the pylon net when I can afford it.
That's good.
It's a nice little. I learned that from your Beta GM. The setting up the tripwire like that is kind of.
Oh, it's exactly right. It's like a 100
huge.
mineral investment, and it makes you take such a better engagement. That's way. It's going to be that engagement value there is so much more worth than 100 minerals. So if you had just just a few stalker with your Colossus in the middle of your base, with like maybe now you're warping in a bunch of zealots there, and all your Colossus are here, 8 stalker, maybe like 5 stalker, and that's, you're done making stalkers there, like 4 stalker with your Colossus. Let's say you go to like 20 in total, and then you have just zealot and like 4 colossi and Templar. The second you see where he goes, if you go, okay, that's only 1 or 2 medevacs, and I have an army that's worth like 100 supply right now. Clearly that's not his entire army. Just let your stalkers deal with it. But let's say you see 10 medevacs boosting to your main. Absolutely grab your whole army and come back down now and get ready to defend it, and have these stalkers pop like 1 or 2 medevacs before the rest of your army gets there. So you don't even have to blink to pop it. You could like pop 1 because you're already here, right? You could pop 1, pop a second one, blink away from it, group up with your units, and then re-engage. And you like delete some of his army before the fight even starts. Same thing could be said over here. And then if he walks by a tripwire with all of his army, it's like a huge army walking to your face. You could grab your whole army, group it up before he gets to your face, and then fight him again. So you could get rid of all the drop harassment and still have a proper defense if he pushes you for real.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So grouping up in the middle with everything is definitely scary for you. And there you go. You walk by your tripwire. So now you can group up and go fight it. And if he ever deletes it and runs away like that, just rebuild it. Yeah, too much cannons. You're going cannon crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only time you should honestly make cannons, genuinely, is when you're already at like 80 probes, and you make cannons after you make your production. So you'd want to have, like, if you look at your production right now, you have 3 gates, you have 1 robo, so you have 4 production buildings right now. Right now, realistically, if you took your bases all at when we said like 6 to 6:15 would be your 4th base, you already would have been at 80 probes by probably like 8 minutes, and
Right.
you could have had right now probably like 12 gateways. Like, if you're gonna go Templars, that's totally fine to just have 1 robo, and like two forges, and you would have so much more like, you know, units being built out of these buildings, and you'd be able to max out a lot faster than you are. And then once you're like max the first time, you can increase your production a little bit more again, and that's also when you could also then add on like a cannon and a battery at your bases, so that it's like support to deal, like, so if you want to warp in there with cannon battery, you totally can. Otherwise, cannon battery will help deal with like a banshee or a liberator or a 1 drop of marines and shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. I had another one recently. I had another replay I was going to show you, but I don't still have time. But there was a
there's what? Sorry.
just a early Marine push, and I had him on the ropes at his base, and 2 banshees in my base. That's
Sure.
it. That's all it took.
Yeah. You're like, oh, my fucking probes are all dead. Yeah. So right here, the fact that I will say there's a really good positive and a really bad negative here. The positive is you did a minor warp in while he was attacking you, which is very clever. It's a very good way to, like, you don't have to micro this at all, really. You can just A move towards the mineral line, or just right click it to the mineral line so it gets in there and just let it go to
Right.
town. I definitely think the idea that you did that is great, because you could actually, if you defend this, you indirectly kill an entire mineral line at the same time for a minor investment. That's so huge. The thing I don't like, though, is that you made Stalkers instead of Zealots. And the
Okay.
reason why is because Stalkers kill SCVs at a slower pace than Zealots do. So, and they're also more expensive. So it's a double negative here for you in terms of
Yeah,
what
this
you
is all
made.
True.
But yeah, the idea that you did that at the time of when you did it was great. And the fact that you're pulling the prism back now, I don't know if you selected the army, but if the prism just like sat here for a sec and just chilled again, that would be fucking amazing, because you could just do it again later. Like, maybe have like 1 zealot. If you, let's say you warped in like 5 zealots, if you had more than 3 gateways, you could have like 1 zealot kill the turrets and have like 4 zealots go to the mineral line. And then you could come back again and do it again later, like the next time he tried to attack you again.
So this is where I was just like, I'm gonna lose this fight, so I wanted to pull everything back
I don't mind the pullback. That was fine.
and build up a little bit more before I re-engage here.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good call, and I'm totally cool with it. And the reason why is because your nexus and your probes were not compromised. If he was sitting
I
here
think
with the
they're
tank,
about to be.
oh yeah, for sure. But if he was sitting here with the tank and there was like a medevac over the top, and he was just, and you backed up and you just watched probes die repeatedly, I'd be like, you gotta either transfer these off and sack the base with like more bases being made somewhere else, or you gotta fucking go, because you can't just sit here and take damage in your economy. But
Right.
the fact that you are not taking damage right now, he was just shooting a pylon for a second, and you're grouping up more units and you're trying to build more shit, that is actually fine. You definitely need to pay attention to vision, though. I would definitely say maybe send an observer forward and just like see what it looks like right there. Maybe like he unsieges everything and you have an opportunity to push him or something. You having no, or like rebuild the pylon. You having no vision
Right.
here is super scary. Yeah,
Not
this
sure what I was paying attention to at this moment.
It's all good. I think you were messing around with the prism for a second there, because your prism's dead now. I think it ran into turrets. But like right now, your 4th base. This is around the time when you'd want to be starting your 5th base. And the reason why is because like this base should have been started like 6 to 6:15, but now,
Right.
look at your main base. It's starting to get all fucked up, and this is when you'd want to have another base getting set up to transfer the fucked up probes. And this base is gonna follow it really soon. This base was really late though, like so it was 90 seconds later than it should have been. But if it was on time, you would be losing patches right about now as well, like starting to lose patches on this base too. And here's a cool tip, okay? bases in general, every base is the same. They have patches with 1800 and they have patches with 900, and there's 4 of each on every base. And just to know, this is important to know this, it takes about 16 minutes for this patch to deplete, and it takes half of that because it's about half the resources for this patch to deplete. So every time
Makes
you take
sense.
a base, you have about 8 minutes before you need to have probes being transferred. So if you think about it, if you go, okay, well, I'm going to take this. Well, this base is started at the start of the game. This base is started at 2 minutes, or like a minute 30. We'll just say 2 minutes just to make it super easy. Okay, even though it is 1:30-ish, like to be exact. But just for the sake of easy examples to understand here, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes. It means that if we go 8 minutes, the 8-minute rule here, this base is going to start having mineral problems with patches being depleted around 8 minutes in the game, 10 minutes in the game, 12 minutes in the game, 14 minutes in the game, if you expanded properly. So that's why
Right.
you'd want to, but it's not fully depleted though. It's not going to be like everything's gone. It's just patches are starting to disappear. So you need to have some opening to be like, all right, well, I have something new to send my probes to, so I'm not having oversaturation of patches not being mined properly. Because that is one of the worst things you can do to yourself, is not set up an economy properly and only set it up for a temporary amount of time, and then be like, well, fuck, the last like 6 minutes, I've been mining super like inoptimal saturation here, and I am supposed to be getting 900 per base, and if you're on 4 bases, that's 3,600 minerals a minute, but you're on 4 bases still, and you're only getting like 2,500. You're like, well, fuck, that's not good. So you got to definitely always make sure that's like a big thing you focus on too.
Here he comes again.
So I'm going to tell you something right now. By now, as soon as tanks are involved and marauders are involved and Vikings are involved, you absolutely need to have some charge lots. You're starting zealots right now, but you don't have charge yet and you don't have blink yet. So this council is way too late. And you already know the council timing now, but your council, this is way too fucking long to still be on just standard
Right.
base stalkers for yourself. 4 Colossus is a great number to have. I'm really. Are you actually going to 5 now? It's okay. But I would say if in the future, 4 Colossus is great. Stop at 4. You don't really need more than
Stop
4.
at 4, like always. Stop
Yeah.
at 4.
The reason why is because if you keep making more than 4, they're going to overlap their damage too much, and it's going to give you wasted DPS, and it's too much supply invested into Colossus, which is going to weaken the rest of your army.
Oh, as in like 4 of them are hitting a group of Marines, but you only get the damage of 2 of them because.
Yeah, like
They're dead.
yeah, exactly. Like even if
Okay.
if you have 4 Colossus, you're still gonna get damage overlap, but the odds
Right.
are high that if your opponent's concaving and you're concaving, that at least the 4 Colossus are gonna somewhat spread their damage a bit. But every time you keep making more and more Colossus, you're just increasing the chances you're gonna have overlap on damage, and it's gonna be wasted damage. And then your Colossus are like big paperweights in the big part of the fight because they're so fucking expensive in supply, and they keep shooting the same units as each other, and they're just wasting DPS.
Right. Copy that. 4 Colossus.
Yeah, I would say more than 4 is somewhat okay against like Zerg, and the reason why that would be like maybe go up to like 6 against Zerg, that'd be fine. And the reason why that's something that'd be okay is because Zerg has way more of like a fucking ground mass, like it's like lots of lings
Right.
and shit, like Hydras. That's a bit more
Yeah.
acceptable there. But with Terran, Colossus already are the best unit against Marauder because Marauder just fucking chew through that shit and they take it pretty well.
Right.
But you're
Probably
also
should have made disruptors here.
well, honestly, Storm would do the job just fine too, and Zealots would do the job just fine because Zealots would be tanking the Marauder and not taking much damage at all. And then
Taking
if you
the tank hits.
yeah, and if you stormed it, plus Colossus damage on top of that, you'd be deleting shit too. Like because if he only has Marauders and like no Marines because you like AoE down the Marines with like a bunch of storms, and your Colossus are just like finishing off swiping the Marauders as well, it'd be still totally fine. It's just you want to have an actual army supporting the Colossus, not like a little tiny blob like this. Like this is way too little for. You have enough Colossus right now to support a 200 supply army.
Right.
So you
That
have
makes sense.
your army is like for the amount of army supply you have, it literally is like maybe like 2 Colossus worth or 1 possibly in terms of
looks
like the
like I-
ratio.
I could use maybe some Archons here based on my amount of gas that I have.
No, for sure. Archons would be great too. Yeah, Archons are so fucking strong too against Bio. That would be a great investment to go into as well. But yeah, it's just your ratios are super fucked because your gateway supply is just on the very low end. And if you take this fight right now, you're going to die.
Right.
Because you don't have charge, you don't have blink. You're way too Colossus heavy with way too gateway light. And you're going into pre-sieged tanks.
Right. I don't know what I can see at this point, but I think I back up here.
Sure. You've already taken too much damage for this to... even though I'm glad you backed up, but the commitment was made and you just lost like your entire gateway army. So
Yeah.
everything that gets made now is just remaking what just got sacrificed.
Waiting for that charge.
Well, dude, yeah.
And I had to cancel out of that base, so,
Yeah.
you know.
For now, it is waiting for charge because you have no other choice. But the real situation would be your charge should already be done, and that should, like that fight could have been a lot more zealots than it was, and even storm by then. Like I would say this: if you're gonna take your council by, realistically, you're gonna be taking your council by probably like 5 minutes. Like I think I said that earlier too. I think like 5:15, because not every game's gonna be exactly the same. Because I can't always say, oh, every second of every game you're gonna do everything exactly at the same time. Because sometimes you're distracted. Sometimes you play worse than other games. You're not always a robot that does. You're not a fucking printer essentially. So if you get your council and your forges down by like a little bit after 5 minutes, 5:15, 5:10, whatever. That's going to be an optimal time to do it because you're taking your third by like 4:15, 4:30, and you're making probes constantly for your third before it's even done. So like as your third's basically finishing, that's your third base should be like finishing up as you have a bunch of fucking probes already on it, and because you're chrono boosting them as well, and that's when you take your council and your forges, and then as soon as your council's done, you immediately start an upgrade. And you can also start your Templar archives shortly after that, once you have a little bit of excess gas to work with. It might be like 30 seconds after, it might be 20 seconds after, it might be 10 seconds after. It really just depends on if you feel like you had to make more Stalkers or not. Then, like if you're losing Stalkers and rebuilding Stalkers, if the guy's aggressive or some shit, then you might be a little later. But if you're like just making Stalkers and then they are never dying, you could probably just push out that fucking council or the archives super fast, because you'd want to have a combination of both charge and blink done, okay, by about probably like 8 minutes, and you'd want to have your storm done by probably like 8:30, like realistically.
Writing this all down. 8:30.
And if you remember, the first thing I said about your chrono boost investment, chrono boost 1 Stalker, chrono boost probes constantly, chrono boost just your first Colossus, and that's it. Don't chrono boost Colossus 2, 3, 4, whatever, just your first Colossus. And the reason why you only want to chrono boost your first Colossus is because it gives you protection versus Terrans who play like this guy did, where they do bio timings. You could have had your first Colossus out in time for when it hits you. And if you have a shield battery plus a Colossus plus a sentry to like guardian shield yourself, it's so easy to defend bio timings. And then every Colossus you make as normal after that will just reinforce your Colossus ball even more, up to like 4. And it'll pace out really well with your money if you don't chrono boost it anymore. So the next thing you chrono boost after your first Colossus is you go back to probes for a little while until you need to chrono boost your council when your council's done. You chrono boost your council like literally 4 times in a row as soon as it's done. The reason why is because you want blink and charge at a really good time, like as fast as possible. So if you chrono boost it like 4 times, it's going to give you blink first, which is going to make it really easy to defend drops and shit, and then it's going to give you a quick charge right behind that. So definitely chrono boost it like 4 or 5 times. If you forget about it a couple times, it'll probably be 4, because it'll still be upgrading while you're not really paying attention to the chrono. But if
50 months with the thickest pillar of the...
If you are slamming it out and you're like really on point with those chronos, you're definitely you could probably squeeze 5 on that thing, and then you're like catching it every time it's ending, and you're not wasting any seconds at all. you could probably chrono boost it a 5th time and then get that charge out super fucking fast after the blink. And then it would make things like this, like the actual push from Terran, that's like 150 supply plus, you would have charge for that and you would just crush. Realistically. Like, yeah, that's the idea if you did the build optimally.
Yeah, so I guess my other problem against Terran is my lack of being aggressive against them. And I don't know if it's just because, you know, I lose to Terran so much that I don't push out like I do against, you know, Protoss or Zerg.
Uh-huh.
And I need to figure out what the, you know, the timing opportunities would be to do that rather than just playing defensively, because I hate playing like this. I hate, like,
So you do have an
chilling in my
option.
base.
You do have an option. And your option is, if you make 3 observers, like I said, where you can spot for aggression, where so you have observers on the side of your base and you have 1 observer that goes with your army, you could move your observer that is going to go with your army, or like, so I actually no, don't do that. That's because if he does, the reason why I say don't do that is because if he does a random Widowmite drop to you, you don't want to be like, ah, fuck, now I got to pull all my observers back here and go back and defend it, and it's going to cause disruption for you. What you should do is you have a sentry in your army, and you have your opening stalkers, and you're getting that council when you get your 3rd base, and you're going to chrono boost blink first. Your aggressive moment to shove in the game would be if you send a hallucinated phoenix across the map right as you're having blink basically about to be finished. So this is going to be probably right around like 5:45, 6 minutes, somewhere around that point in the game. You're going to send out a hallucinated phoenix, and if your opponent has taken a 3rd base, either it does not matter if it's in his base or if it's at a 3rd, you are more than welcome to attack with blink stalkers, only blink stalkers, because you can disengage with blink stalkers. And if he's taking a 3rd, he's going to defend his 3rd for a little bit longer, and he's not going to do some fucking base trade shit to you right there. But if you fucking if you just go, you know what, I hate being a defensive, I have to attack, and you're the one expanding and your opponent is the one going for an all-in, it's not the time to attack. You're going to kill yourself if you leave your base and go attack him. So the game should be dictated whether you attack or defend based on how greedy your opponent's going to be, not just random, like I just feel like doing it. Because I don't know what's going on. Because you do know what's going on based on how much economy he invests into. That's why scouting is so important. So you should be scouting constantly with that hallucinated phoenix, and that's why earlier when you did and you saw he went for double racks, that was fucking a really good scout. The way you microed it, where you went over the middle line, you saw his resource investment here, you saw the bunker, you saw the Marines, you pulled back from that. That was really nice. You went into the main, saw more Marines, saw his whole investment of these 2 racks and the factory starport. That was a great scout in the main. That is definitely not the time to attack. If you saw that in a normal game and you saw, okay, multi-racks with no 3rd, and I'm going for a 3rd base myself with blink, I should not be attacking right now. What you'd want to do then is you'd want to, you know you're going to get attacked. You even said it earlier. That's the perfect read. That was a good, the way you answered the question was really good. It makes me feel confident that you read the build properly. And then you go, that what you would do then is you would go, okay, he'll attack me, I'll kill it defensively, and then I'll counter push him. That's what you would do then. You don't actually make the initial aggressive move unless your opponent is greedy as well. Because stalkers, opening blink stalkers, is totally viable to be aggressive first if your opponent is being greedy too.
Yeah, because you can just take some shield damage and get out.
Exactly, yeah. And you're also mobile as fuck, so he can't punish you if you're there. If he stims at you, you just blink away and you just keep blinking away repeatedly and then you go home. So
Makes sense.
there's nothing that'll, the only thing Terry could make that would run you down would be Hellions. But Hellions lose to Stalkers anyways, so if he has Hellions and you have Stalkers, you would just win the fight anyways.
Right.
So yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of with Stalkers if you're not going to get attacked.
It is that battle mech composition.
No, for sure, yeah.
That's another one that gets me.
That's just macro, really. Like if you just you could beat battle mech with literally just pure Stalker and Zealot. And if you just have enough Stalkers and you always focus fire Cyclones, and you keep the cyclone count low there, and then you blink micro either out away from the lock-on, or you blink micro in to focus fire whatever little cyclones he has there. Like, it would make sense to blink in if you massively outnumber the cyclones. But it would make sense to blink out if he's got a very scary amount of cyclones, and you focus down like 2 of them and blink away. and you blink away before he gets all these max like lock-ons and getting all these kills on you.
Yeah,
So you'd
that
like
lock-on upgrade's amazing.
yeah, you would kill like 1 maybe 2 if he doesn't lock on immediately, and then you blink away and like disengage the lock-on. But yeah,
When I play Terran, that's what I do against Protoss. Is just Cyclone Hellion.
yeah.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah, like once you get these expansion timings down though, and you really like make your economy fluid, you'll be like, holy fuck, I have so much more army than I normally ever do, because your whole game here has been super far behind in supply because all of your expansions have been massively delayed the whole time.
Yeah, normally, you know, if nobody messes with me in this situation, I max out at like 11 or something like that.
Even
So,
then, 11's pretty slow.
Yeah, what do I need to get to? Like
Probably
10?
like 10 minutes, yeah.
Okay.
That's like with a diverse composition of like Storm and Colossus and stuff like that. Probably 10 minutes with having everything. You'd have 1-1 with 2-2 on the way, and you'd have all your Colossus already. You'd have probably like 6 Templar with Storm. You'd have probably like 18 Stalkers or something with Blink, and you'd have a bunch of Zealots with Charge at 10 minutes.
Yeah. I think I just have a problem with letting the drops and stuff like that just mess with my build too much, you know?
Yeah.
I just
That's why you just gotta, if you just plant yourself around your base when you're already
in the
playing defensive
panic
anyways. Yeah, no, for sure, right? Like these cannons are slowing you down too. This is just resources that are being invested into, and the extra batteries you made. Like you spent like 1,000 minerals this game on defense that you didn't need
Right.
when you built it. That is, and it slows down your other things because you're building it all before you're actually fully saturated, which because you're selling 60 probes, and that's like assuming that's now. You didn't even just build this just now. You built this a while ago. Yeah, try to always think to yourself, the only time I ever want to make static D, there's 2 times that are appropriate for it. The first time is when you know you're going to do like a timing attack and leave your base, and you think your opponent is going to do something aggressive counter-wise to you. Like if you're like, okay, he's going to hit me with a fucking Cloak Banshee. That's totally a fine time to build static D. The only other time to build static, or if he's like the guy who just always fucking Widowmine drops you, and you like that's all he's fucking doing, and you're like,
What about Speedling run-bys?
yeah, no, that's fine too, but it's only okay to build static D when you are going to leave your base with your army.
Okay.
Like if you're dealing with Speedling run by guy, and you have your Protoss, the best thing you can do that's not making static D is making a wall at your natural, which every Protoss knows that. You leave a unit in the door, like on hold position, so you can't just run into your natural. And you have like a shield battery that can heal that guy through the damage if he takes it, so it like buys you time to deal with it. But then you like leave your army at your third base. You just leave it there. You could leave some of it on the right side of your third, some of it on the left side of your third. You could even build gateways in front of your third to like block off an entrance, kind of like what we talked about earlier in this lesson, even versus the Terran. You could like have walled off the side of your middle line if you're afraid of like Hellions running into middle line or some shit. But then like if you have just like decent walls, that's so much more value than cannons. And you're not actually trying to push there because you're trying to set up an economy there. Because you should never actually feel like if you're not attacking, you're not in control of the game. Because as Protoss, you're in control of the game if you get your ideal composition. Because if you have your ideal composition, ideal composition for Protoss is so fucking powerful. It is actually super hard.
About like the death ball.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be like carriers or some shit. It could just be literally like Zealot, Stalker, Colossus, and Templar, and Archon. Like that composition is so ridiculously challenging to deal with. You have to have some insanely good micro to deal with that, or like a very very heavy counter comp like setup. Like it'd be like if it was a Zerg player, you'd have to have like 10 Brood Lords already or some shit to like have something that's not a lot of micro, but it's a really specific counter comp to like what you're doing. If you had like the the ground based composition.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious to me now that the issue in this game is just letting his harass just get the better of my timings, and my army's, what is that, 40 supply, 50 supply?
You're right now you're at 80 supply army and 60 supply probes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just way too far behind constantly the whole game, of where not your opponent, of where you should be as Protoss.
Right.
So if you follow those timers that you wrote down earlier and you try to like really stick to those, and then you get out of you get more in the habit of just allowing yourself to spread your army around your base when you're in the harass phase of the game, and only grouping up when it's an attack to then group up for the attack phase of the game, you'll be so much better off.
I'm really bad at. I never spread my army out, and I really need to.
Yeah, you definitely should.
Get in that habit.
If you never spread your army out and you just supplement it with making static D all the time, you're gonna struggle in Diamond League forever.
Right.
Because everyone who knows how to make an economy more efficiently than making static D, like crazy like that, is always gonna take advantages of you by taking the map instead. Like economy wise, like because if the more you make static D when you're not ready to make it like or push yet, the more you give the map to your opponent, because you're just delaying your push longer and longer, and it gives them more time to just, like, you're investing into shit that stays there, and they're investing into money that gives them more advantages. If they know what they're doing.
Right.
But yeah. Anyways, we'll speed it through it now. I feel like that so the reason why I'm kind of speeding through it now a little bit is because at this point there's not really a lot to say. If you just had the right ideal composition, it would just be I'm not even kidding, it would be A moving and storming him.
Right. Makes sense, man.
Because if you can't do that, it means something fucked up along the way. There's been some problem because at this point you have a nightmare of a comp to deal with. You have Liberator, Viking, and Tank to engage into, and you have no Storm, and you have a low gateway count. So your gateway count literally evaporates as you take the engagement. And then now you're just trying to run back with Colossus, and you have no cover for Colossus now.
Yeah, just trying to preserve what I had. Being, what is this now, like 80 supply low? 60 supply low?
Yeah.
Just never going to happen. So I just kept pulling back. I evacuated this base, I think. Started losing,
For sure. The only way you could deal with this...
I would have GG'd out right here, but I was just kind of messing around.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's totally fine. The only way you could win here, there's two ways, honestly. The first way you could win is if you had enough army and enough bank and enough reproduction to not only take a fight, but then as you take losses, remax and take the fight again, like really fast. Like you basically like engage with the composition we talked about earlier, Archon, Zealot, Stalker, Colossus, Templar, and you just shove into his face and you like blink into the fucking libs and kill the libs. Zealots get on the tanks and the bio, and your Colossus and Storm are just like AoEing the fuck out of the bio ball, and you're just like getting rid of his army. Go ahead.
Just a simple Chargelot, Archon, Immortal, Storm kind of army would deal with this just fine.
You totally, if you had again, the key you have to remember here is if you had enough supply to initially engage, which is like a maxed out army, and you had enough bank to remax, and you had enough production to actually build the units. All three of those things would need to happen.
What I'm trying to say is, like, I don't need to go for Tempest.
No, you don't.
Stuff like that.
That is an option. The Tempest is the other option, but Tempest is your only option in this game because you don't have the things that I just said earlier.
Right.
Like if you don't have Tempest here,
you're
fucking dead.
Those things, I think they're kind of trash.
You don't have to make them. You just have to have more control of the map. If you don't want to make Tempest and you don't want to play cost efficiency, where you pick his Liberators apart without taking losses, that's totally fine. But if you're going to take losses to kill libs, which is you're going to full on engage, the only way that works is if you can remax repeatedly. You can't take losses and then not remax because you'll lose then.
Gotcha.
So you have to have a good economy set up that is constant. You have to have a good amount of bank built up. So because that's where the economy comes in, right? You have to be able to like replace what dies fast, not slow. And then you have to have enough production, and the more production you have, the better. So if you're really fucking rich, you'd probably want to have like 20 gates. Not just like 10 or something. You'd want to literally have like 20 to 22 gates or something with like 2 robos. If you're like rocking 4,000 minerals in the bank with 80 probes effectively mining.
Right.
That would be totally a time where you don't even need Tempest. And you could just be like, all right, some of my army over here, some of my army over here. Let's fucking engage. And let's have, I'll throw a couple storms out there and then blink my stalkers on these libs and just focus fire the libs. Get rid of the libs. That way, even if I lose the initial fight and I have to pull back my Colossus and whatever stalkers are left over and all my zealots die, as I pull back, I'm already fucking remaxed again because let's say this is how the fight goes. Okay, this is how you'd want it to go. Split, A move, storm, blink, focus fire, rapid fire, warp in, come back, focus fire. Okay, I'm losing the fight, but I did kill a lot in the process. Pull the rest of my army back, which might be like 12 stalkers and 4 Colossus and maybe like 2 Templar or something, and the rest of your army died. And then as you're pulling back, second warp in, re-engage.
Sounds like a plan, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I knew I was dead at this point. I was just kind of screwing around for the rest, so you can probably go through it pretty quick.
No, for sure. You're absolutely dead right now. There's no way you win
Right,
anymore. And
yeah,
the reason
I
why
was
you're
just-
dead is because you have no economy. You're out, and you're basically out here. These bases are literally about to disappear, and you have no income now.
Right. I don't know what I think I just like stormed him a couple times here and then I quit.
Yeah, your Templar just got chewed alive
Yeah,
right there.
I think Storm's not even done yet at that point, I don't
It's all
think.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the right idea for the composition. Your composition's fine. It's just you don't have enough of a setup of it.
Right. Okay. Basically, just don't let the economy get away from me, and I think that's what always happens with Terran, because they seem to be, Terran players seem to be the best at hopping in there and harassing constantly.
Oh, they definitely are. Yeah.
Like when I'm playing a Zerg, it just feels simple, easy. Smoke them.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
At least D2 Zergs, it doesn't seem to be a problem ever.
yeah. I for a second I thought you were saying when I play against Terran as Zerg, I was like, okay.
No.
Yeah, no, I
No,
got
no.
when you're playing against a Zerg player. Yeah, it's
Against the
I
Zerg
gotcha.
player, it's like it feels so easy. That's my easiest matchup.
sure. No, it's good.
Um,
Yeah. The big thing that I think you need to understand that this is gonna harken back to like something I said earlier in the lesson that I said we'd come back to, and now I'm remembering it to come back to it. You gotta know your aggressive moments, okay? And
Mhm.
you have a couple of them throughout the game. The first one is your Stalker aggressive moment, and it goes based off what we talked about earlier. If he's got a greedy economy, you can absolutely blink first against him. You can make the initial aggressive move once you have blink. Never do it before you have
Right.
blink. Or if your opponent attacks you and he's aggressive first and you kill it, you can counter aggressively attack him with blink. And that's totally fine again. You don't all in him, just aggressively poke him, because your goal should always be getting a good economy to set up your actual army. Now, the second time you can be aggressive in the game is with zealots, and this can be when your opponent attacks you with an army. You can invest like 10 supply, 15, 16 supply, whatever, like 8 zealots, 5 zealots, 10 zealots. Like 10 zealots probably max, okay? Don't go above 10.
Mhm.
So that's 20 supply. You can invest a handful of zealots to counter his mineral lines. You can do that with either a prism, or you could have like 10 zealots go like this. Hey guys, I want you to fucking A move down here, and then A move over here, and I want you to wait right there. And then once he attacks me, grab these zealots and go attack right there. You could do that, or like do the same thing on the other side. You could do shit like that too. That's totally fine. Especially if it's an orbital command. That would be great. But just like the point here I'm trying to make is counterattack with zealots while he's attacking you, while he's out of position. That's the only time that should make sense. Don't ever do it if you're just like nothing's happening. You go, all right, fucking, I'm gonna attack right now, and then he's standing right there, and all your zealots just get fucking meat grindered, and you're like,
Yeah, it makes sense.
I
I could
just-
totally
yeah,
do that. Like just handful, skip the planetary, run into that orbital.
exactly. If you right-clicked right there, you would fucking
Yeah.
like destroy this guy. This would not only kill reinforcements that come out of his base one at a time, but you would also kill all the SCVs here if he's not paying attention. And if he's busy looking at your fight here, chances are higher that he's not going to pay attention. And you don't have to micro it. You literally just go, oh, he's attacking right now with my tripwire. Initiate it by going right-click up there and army group up for the defense. And then you take a fight while the fight's happening. You're just grinding SCVs to death. So that's the second time you can be aggressive. And the third time you can be aggressive is when you have your death ball. You can bully the map when you have a death ball.
Right.
And that's it. If you're aggressive,
I'm never afraid of him if I'm maxed out. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
for sure.
got it, and it's just I'm always
Yeah.
being held down. It seems like when I'm playing Terran.
if you ever play aggressively against Terran at any other point that is not one of those three we just said, you are opening yourself up to lose a fuckload of probes and bases.
Mhm.
And that's when you're going to be like, fuck it, let's attack. And then he's like, you're here, right? You're like right there, and he's running in your base here with Stimpak and sieging your fucking third. And you're like, fuck, okay. Run back home. We're losing the third. You like run your probes. Half of them die as they evacuate. And you're like, okay, this is bad. But yeah, anyways, you have any questions? Any final questions about anything that we talked about?
No, I think so. I think I'm getting the point here. Playing against Terran, I just need to get a little bit more vision with the observers on the outer ends of the base, and maybe poke them a little bit with the stalkers, and I think that'll help a lot.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and then anything too, if there's anything we talked about, like I said before, that maybe it like, and in the moment it might have made sense, but I know that I've said like fucking 50 things to you now where you're like, okay, this is a lot of shit to absorb here. If you ever need to like rewatch this, I'll message you on Discord by like tomorrow with the VOD of this. So you can always go back and listen to it again in the future as many times as you want. And
Okay.
yeah, then hopefully if something was, if it feels confusing right now with everything we just talked about, if you watch it again, hopefully some more stuff clicks the next time. Other than, because I bet if you watch this like 3 times in a row, like over the course of a couple weeks, I bet more things will click every time when you watch it again and again.
Right. Appreciate it, man.
All right, dude.
Paul, are you still here?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Oh, he's here.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, if there's anything else you guys want to ask, feel free. Otherwise, thanks for doing it.
Well, yeah, and I think, Paul, we were going to do a 2v2 lesson, right?
Catch you on a 2v2.
Yeah, whenever you have time.
Yeah, I guess just hit me up with another email. We'll schedule another one similar to how we did this one. I would say for next one though, give me a little bit more of warning in terms of when you guys want to set it up, because I can't always guarantee I'll always be available like on the fly.
Right.
But yeah, if you guys just think about a time that works for you guys, and then my timing, or I think I gave you guys my general availability. It's going to usually always be the same for like the generic numbers that I have going on there. Like pretty much every day but Monday, like 1 p.m. to like 5 p.m. PST, somewhere in that block of time usually would be
And
great.
for a 2v2, are you going to want us to do like a live match, or
You could
how
do a
we
replay
that?
or a live match, either way. I've done coaching before. I've done coaching in a lot of different ways before, but I would say this. Live match, you're not going to learn as much. It's just going to feel more intense, and I'll help you. It could be really fun, but you guarantee you're going to be distracted as fuck, and you're going to play worse than you normally do, and you're not going to get as much out of it in that moment. But if you do a replay, it'll be a lot more relaxed because you're not having to play the game as well, and you will absolutely absorb more of the things that I'm saying while I'm talking to you, because you're not going to be distracted by trying to win the game as well.
Okay.
So either way works. I would definitely say that playing can definitely have its own reasons why it's fun, though. I've had people that love playing and coaching lessons instead.
Yeah, maybe we'll try both.
Yeah,
right on.
whatever you guys want to do, I'm down.
All right.
But yeah, I guess have a good rest of your night, guys. And dude, thank you guys very much for doing this. Appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Vibe.
dude.
Thanks.
All right. See ya.
All right, later, guys.
Later.
All right, boys. That has been a coaching lesson. Shout out to PJ and Mr. No Cheese. Walazar. Much love, guys. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this as well. Everyone out there listening for the Diamond Level Protoss lesson. So thank you. Good luck in your own games. Like the video if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, everybody.